Hey guys, welcome to Timcast this morning with me, Libby Emmons, your host, filling in for Tim Pool. I'm glad to have you here today. I'm glad to be with you guys, and I just want to get started with the big, beautiful bill. What I think is really great about this big, beautiful bill is that that's actually what it's called. It's like, some budget amendment, blah, 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 or whatever it's called. But in the short name for Congress, it's actually called the One Big Beautiful Bill. So I think that's actually really fun. Trump was on the Hill this morning talking all about this to the GOP, trying to bring the holdouts around. He actually seemed to indicate that any GOP who doesn't get on board could be primaried. So he's looking right there at Thomas Massie. That's kind of fun. And he said, I know your district better than you. If you lose because of salt, you are going to lose anyway, because, of course, what you have are a lot of Democrat states have conservative, Republican representatives. And those representatives are worried that they're going to lose because they're in these blue states and they need the salt deductions. So that's one of the big holdups. This was written for the Post Millennial by Thomas Stevenson, and we can just get into what Trump said. He said Massie should be voted out of office and doesn't understand government. Jake Sherman was there taking notes live from this meeting. Trump called out Massie specifically and said that other Republicans should not be grandstanding like Massie does. The congressman from Kentucky has been opposed to some of Trump's policies before when it comes to fiscal concerns. Trump has also previously called for Massie to be primaried, so it's not like they're great friends. Massie also called out Mike Lawler from New York, another conservative who's in a blue state and could run into trouble. You have to remember that in the was it the midterms? When Lee Zeldin was running for governor against Kathy Hochul, Lee Zeldin basically delivered a red wave. He delivered 5 congressional seats for the GOP in New York, even though he lost the gubernatorial race. So it would really be a shame to undo Zeldin's gains in New York. And, Trump knows that, but it really would be a shame. And he was upset about the salt deductions. The salt deductions, of course, are that constituents can deduct from their federal taxes, their state and local taxes. So if you're in a state where you're paying a ton of money to the state, you can scratch some of that back from your federal. Trump said he did not want to raise the cap on salt deductions because it could benefit Democrat governors, which, of course, it certainly could, because then they can just keep raising taxes. And the feds are the ones that bear the brunt of that. Lawler has been pushing to raise the caps on the deductions, even as the GOP has been crafting the bill. The $10,000 cap on state and local tax deductions from federal taxes was established in Trump's 2017 tax legislation. And part of this bill is to solidify some of the tax cuts from 2017 to make those permanent. And the proposed bill would raise that limit to $30,000. And Trump is thinking about getting rid of that. And he cursed. He added that the GOP should not F around with Medicaid and should focus on eliminating waste and fraud and abuse in the program. The big, beautiful bill, the One Big Beautiful Bill, is over 1,000 pages. I think it's 1,116 pages, if memory serves, from my deep dive into all of this yesterday. And Human Events, where I am the editor as well, did an editorial about this that really digs into what's in the bill. So we can just go through that pretty quick. The bill would extend Trump's 2017 tax cut, boost the child tax credit, give breaks for families with new babies, remove taxes on tips and overtime pay, offer an added $4,000 deduction for seniors, and put an end to the absurd, pointless green tax incentives. These are those incentives put into place to cut breaks for sustainable energy companies and manufacturers that couldn't make their case in the marketplace and had to rely on government telling people what energy to use, what cars or appliances to buy, like the getting rid of all gas stoves. That's part of this ridiculous nonsense. And just as a side note, I think it's completely bonkers to tell human beings not to cook their food with fire, right? Like, we've been doing that since Prometheus, and I don't think we should give that up now. It's better It's part of our DNA at this point. Americans don't want to be told what to buy. They don't want suboptimal products. So there's also new work requirements for Medicaid. This is a controversial aspect to the bill, but one that ensures that people who can work do work. Those who are above the poverty line, who are getting Medicaid, would be asked to provide a copay for service. So basically, like everybody else. States that cover illegal immigrants on the federally funded program would be penalized, and eligibility checks would be implemented by the federal government to cut down on fraud. The White House has also announced, and this is something interesting, MAGA baby savings accounts. I don't know if you guys tuned in to Carolyn Leavitt's press conference yesterday from the White House. It was pretty early. I admit that I missed it and had to catch up later in the day. But this is essentially a 401k for babies. And Carolyn Leavitt said not only does it increase the child tax credit, but it also includes MAGA baby savings account for children that are born after January 1st, 2024, under 8 years old, U.S. citizens, and have at least one parent with a valid Social Security number. And when this tax provision comes law, she says the child will, if the parents seek to do this, be set up with a savings account. Essentially, it's a 401k for newborn baby and child's relatives. Their parents can contribute up to $5,000 per year of after-tax dollars annually to that account. And then later in the baby's life, at age 25, savings account holders can withdraw up to the full balance of the account. Upon reaching 30, the account holders can access the full balance for any purpose desired. So what I think is kind of brilliant about this plan, and we got into it as well. Oh, it also has, I'll just talk about this first. What I think is kind of amazing about this plan is that for a very long time, we hear that there's inequity between the wealthy and the poor and the working class and the middle class in this country, and that a big part of that is generational wealth, right? The creation of generational wealth is something that's hard to do. But in this case, what it's saying is, hey, parents, what you can do is you can set up with your tax dollars that we're not going to keep from you. You can set up this savings account for your kids. It's not always easy to come up with $1,000, especially when you have young kids, but being able to deduct it from your taxes, that's huge because, of course, then you basically get it back. And the ability to save for your child, I don't know how many of you have kids, but the ability to save for your child is huge. I remember when my son was very little, he was still he was under a year old, and I found that I was unable to sleep because I hadn't started an account for him. I hadn't put anything aside, and I was really worried that he was going to reach college and it was going to be like, well, I don't know what you do now. Like, good luck with life. So I set up an account, and then I was able to, sleep better. And now he's 15. So and once it becomes part of your habit, then it becomes part of your habit. And basically, that's what the Trump administration is saying with this bill. You can take this money, you can set it up for your kids, and then there doesn't have to be, most kids in America could have like these little baby trust funds. And I think that really puts kids on a good foot once they're able to, once they know money is being saved for them. I think it's very cool. I think that's my favorite thing about the bill. There are some other things that are cool as well that I like, which is the tax deduction for interest on car loans for American-made cars, which ideally will drive Americans to drive American. It's been a long time since that's been a standard. That used to be not just a standard about good cars, but it was like a nationalist thing to do, patriotic, like drive American cars, keep people employed. Super into that. I was recently doing some online shopping, and I was like, I don't want anything that's not made in the United States. And I landed on some page that's a bunch of stuff made by the Amish, and I'm like, good, I'm all in, all in for that. Let's do that. So you've got that. There's also the White House touts the plan is creating 15% less in taxes for working class Americans, adding up to $13,000 in additional take-home pay, strengthening family leave, and eliminates the use of Medicaid funds for child sex changes and encouraging family formation. We've got some stuff also in this bill that Trump thought he was finished with the first time around. We've got the border wall. We've got Coast Guard getting new ships. We've got new planes for the Air Force, increase in Border Patrol. We've got the Golden Dome, which is like the Iron Dome that Israel has, except, bigger, better, golden, and for the U.S. I think that's kind of a neat idea. No ICBMs for us. So, yeah, they're working on that. Congress hasn't passed a bill since the Lake and Riley Act. So they're trying to get this done by, I think, Memorial Day or maybe May 31st. We'll see if they can, if they can get it done. And of course, it was a big deal for Trump to head over to the Hill and start talking to everybody about it. Moving on to a totally, oh, look, it also has modernizing highways. Oh, the other cool thing, modernizing air traffic control. So there's air traffic control systems that are using floppy disks. And, if you don't know what those are, you know for sure how outdated that is. I do know what those are. We used them in middle school when we were learning to code. We had this very cool Irish coding teacher, and she was great. She was hard to understand, but I remember her a lot more than I remember the coding. Anyways, so so we'll see what happens. We're definitely going to be tracking that all day. I don't know if it's going to go through today. It got out of committee, and then you had some of the holdouts voting present instead of saying no. So we'll see what happens. This is something fascinating. Candace Owens she did a whole interview with Harvey Weinstein. I haven't watched the whole thing, but I did watch this clip. Tate, can we play the clip? Can I just play it? Yeah, sure. I can just play it, you guys.
I did not commit these crimes. I swear that before God and the people watching now and on my family. The people who support me are scared to talk. They are frightened to death that they're going to be canceled.
What I always found to be problematic about the Me Too movement from the beginning, we're conflating he made a pass at me and I didn't like it with rape.
It's a complete fabrication about my relationship with Gwyneth. I didn't put my hand on her. I didn't touch her. I definitely made a pass. Ashley Judd's claims are ridiculous. I settled with Rose McGowan. I gave her $100,000. Don't tell my wife. Don't get me in trouble. It's all conflated, and it's all led to the idea that I am going to be the one they persecute. They broke me. They broke me in half.
There's just so much when you read the transcripts that defy common sense for me.
I've asked to have lie detector tests brought into the prison. I know they're not admissible, but I want the world to know.
To be honest with you, I think a lot of people are going to hear this conversation.
Candace, one thing I can tell you is this is going to explode.
So she's got her full interview up. The Harvey Weinstein case is basically the beginning of Me Too. So if you guys remember the horrible ideology that gripped this country in academia and in politics and in basic everyday life, it's this Me Too movement. So this was this movement where basically you believe all women no matter what, infantilizing them essentially to say, oh, women never lie. They only ever tell the truth about anything. So and whatever they say must be true about sexual allegations or misconduct or what have you. And Harvey Weinstein is the poster man for this whole thing. He was alleged to have had a casting couch going where he gave parts based on sexual favors, that he would elicit from beautiful actresses who wanted to work in the industry. I have my own take on that, which is, I'm not going to get into that one actually, but maybe sometime. I think I've written about it. But if it turns out that he's not entirely guilty of all of this stuff, or even if there's questions or if there's reasonable doubt, I would love to see a reversal of that whole ethos that says, you patted me on the butt at work, boss, so now I'm going to get you fired. Andrew Cuomo would benefit from a reversal of the whole Me Too thing, right? I mean, he had 2 scandals that took him down. One of them was COVID nursing homes, and the other one was that all of these young women who had worked in his offices were saying, "Oh, he hugged me wrong," or something like that. And that's what got him ousted from the governorship and got Kathy Hochul taking over. Letitia James and Kathy Hochul, Letitia James, of course, the AG of New York, who aimed to take down Trump. The 2 of them colluded to get Cuomo out of office based on Me Too stuff, and then dropped all the charges. So if it turns out that Harvey Weinstein is not quite the Satan that everybody believes him to be at this point, there's a lot more questions that should be asked, and there's a lot more reversals that should be undertaken. I'm not a member of Candace's channel, and I think that's what you have to do to watch it. I'm pretty tempted though, because I would be fascinated to watch this. The New York Post did watch it, and they talked about it. The ailing 73-year-old took aim at a handful of his A-list accusers, including Ashley Judd, as well as Gwyneth Paltrow and Rachel McGowan. You know what? I think the Post maybe just watched the same clip that we just, in the 1-minute teaser clip from the interview. So they should have watched the whole thing. You know what I'm saying? And then we could have gotten a lot more information. There's cool pictures of Gwyneth Paltrow. But yeah, Gwyneth Paltrow had come forward during the height of, they at least have the background, come through at the height of the Me Too era, accused Weinstein of preying on her on the set of several films, accused him of inviting her to his hotel room, putting his hands on her, and even suggesting a massage after she was cast in the film Emma. I have a friend who I haven't talked to in a couple of years, but she was saying that she was raped by Weinstein as well. She was a starlet of the era around the same time as McGowan, maybe a little sooner than that. But this whole Me Too thing cost Weinstein his entire career. It cost him his wealth. It cost him his wife. And he has said that Ashley Judd's claims were ridiculous. I don't know. But I think do you guys think it's worth exploring? He was convicted of sex crimes both in New York and California. He's on trial again after an appeals court found that his New York trial was tainted by prejudicial testimony and overturned that conviction. So that trial, that appeal last year was that they didn't say he was innocent, but they did overturn the conviction. He faces another 25 years behind bars, and he's been in jail for a long time. I know that he's had health problems and whatever else. If you've watched this full interview, let me know your take in the chat. I'm super curious. Can I even see the chat? I don't know, but I'm super curious. You can hit me up on Twitter at Libby Emmons. Definitely interested to know what you guys think about this. The Me Too era is definitely something that should be taken down. Candace Owens is kind of the perfect person to do it since she took down BLM, go after all of the icons of the left, I say. Tear them all to bits. Another story I want to talk to you about is that the Supreme Court has now said that they will allow the Trump administration to revoke the temporary protected status for migrants. It's an 8-1 decision pending an appeal, of course. But I think it's 350,000 Venezuelans that Kristi Noem was trying to deport, and the court said no way. But the court has now lifted the injunction that had been placed, and this is from Hannah Nightingale at the Post Millennial. Court has lifted an injunction that had been placed on the Trump administration, blocking them from ending the temporary protected status. The ruling was an 8-1 decision. And it says the application for stay presented to Justice Kagan and by her referred to the court is granted. The March 31st, 2025 order entered by the United States District Court for the Northern District of California is stayed pending the disposition of the appeal in the United States Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit and the disposition of a petition for a writ of certiorari if such writ is timely sought. The Ninth District, the Ninth Circuit, that is Louisiana, that's New Orleans. That is believed to be like the most conservative federal district court in the country. That's why you see the Trump administration, every time they arrest some student who said they love Hamas and hate America, they send them to Louisiana. Because once they're in Louisiana, any case to try and get them free or overturn whatever or get their visa back or whatever the ACLU is constantly trying to do has to be filed in Louisiana. And there's less of a chance, the Trump administration believes, that they would be sprung by that. So this is interesting. Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, everybody's favorite DEI hire on the Supreme Court, said that she would deny the application. But yeah, so we'll see what happens now. This definitely opens the door for deportations of people on TPS, or at least the revoking of the status. And if TPS, what it is it's 2 years. You get 2 years where you don't have to go home because your home is a disaster. So you have people from Haiti have TPS because Haiti, obviously, it's like gangland. I mean, it seems terrible right now. Cuba, TPS. Nicaragua, TPS, Venezuela, TPS. But then under the Biden administration and going back, this is something that wasn't new under Biden, TPS would be extended. So you had DHS, Alejandro Mayorkas, saying we need to extend TPS, and then when they would extend it, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was standing outside of the Roosevelt Hotel in New York when all of that was going on, saying we need to extend TPS for Venezuelan migrants. And then they would just extend it. And sometimes it just would get extended and extended and extended. And under TPS, you get a lot of federal benefits too. You get I think you get a cash card, you get food stuff, you get rental assistance. And so people on TPS, when they come into small towns, end up driving up the cost of rent because they have all this free money. And so the landlords take the free money. And then the people who live there already are like, now I can't afford rent because you have these people who are able to throw $2,000 a month at it and just free federal money. And also, I think you get work permits. I don't know if you get it right away or after 180 days, but that's a big part of it. And the Trump administration wanted to get rid of this TPS program. I think there's 530,000 people on TPS in the United States currently. Not entirely sure, but I think it's something like that. And yeah, I mean, this would be pretty wild because this was a really big program under Biden. Biden also brought in, I think, 197,000 refugees during his 4 years in office after raising the refugee cap to 125,000 per year. But yeah, I wonder what this will look like. This means that the revocation of TPS for people who are still currently within their 2 years, probably they'll still get the full 2 years. And anybody who is over those 2 years, my guess is that, this is my guess. I'm not sure. I have to check it out still. We could ask Hannah because she probably knows because she's been covering all this stuff really pretty great. So, my guess is, though, that once the TPS runs its course, it will not be renewed, and then it will be revoked at that point, and people will be asked to go home. There's also been this thing where people are taking up the Trump administration's offer to get free flights back to their country of origin, as well as there's a payoff. I think it's $1,000, something like that, where you get paid off to go home as well. So, we'll see what happens there. But across the board, we have had federal judges refusing to allow the Trump administration to go through with deportations. One thing that I think is true is that deportations are ugly, right? I mean, we knew this going in. It's pretty ugly, to see people just arrested at their workplace or to see employment enforcement, when DHS or ICE or whoever shows up at a job. That's pretty rough to see. And I don't think anybody likes it. And that is, of course, a big part of the empathy that goes on in saying, no, we don't want these deportations, which I totally get. But what I don't understand is, where was the empathy for Americans? Where was the empathy for our nation? Where was the empathy for all of that stuff when you had people just pouring in? What was it like? If you go with the conservative number of 2 million a year, then it's 8 million people came in A lot of them, their court dates got thrown out. They didn't even have to appear in court. The Biden administration was banking on pathways to citizenship for everybody. And, I just don't think that that's going to fly. And the reason that's not going to fly is not because of Trump, but because that's not what the American people wanted.